we are living in a society today, not in some vague, distant future, where artificial intelligence is impacting our lives now. And you outline one of the main problems when it comes to AI, which is this idea of ethics versus morality. And I just want to understand a bit more about what you mean by it. What is it, and what is the problem there?
Our lives are pretty early on shaped by moral and ethical choices, whether we know it or not.
Right.
But the computer that we create will just be a computer that mirrors our own rationality. And if we're not careful, it can start to take decisions that sound rational to it and to the people who programmed it, but will be anti-human. And that's why, for me, as we move in this century towards autonomous general intelligences, autonomous machines that can decide, are they going to kill somebody on the battlefield? These machines have to be given codes and safety standards and ultimately ethical codes which mirror ours.
How do you program ethics? Like, it just sounds mental when I say it out loud. How do you
With an artificial general intelligence, in other words, a thinking machine that can emulate us, it has to have, as it were, an embedded series of values that can deal with any eventuality. Now, engineers are actually quite good at programming ethics into machines.
Yeah.
They're already dealing with safety standards for things like autonomous killing vehicles that can patrol borders in South Korea or Israel, for example. This is real. What they're not good at, because why should they be? They're just engineers. They're not good at importing whole human value systems that have taken religions and philosophers thousands of years to develop into machines. Engineers are good at yes-no decisions. They're brilliant actually at designing, shall I do this or that? That's all a computer program is. Yeah. Shall we go this way or that way? What they're not so good at is thinking about the 360-degree humanity of the people they're building these machines for.
Not to mention, like, what is ethical and moral in, let's say, China is different to what is ethical and moral in Ethiopia, to London, to the United Kingdom, to the United States. And how do we, so who regulates?
Who regulates is the government of the day. I mean, that's who's regulating. There are international standards for AI made by IEEE, which is an electrical engineering standards board, but they've only just been written 2 years ago, and it's not exactly clear that everyone who's producing AI is following them, above all people who are working on AI in the military sphere. That's why I argue that businesses who've been mostly very good at saying, look, we need ethics. Some really good ones say we have an ethics board. I'm telling them you're going to need moral philosophers. You're going to need people who are adept at understanding global, worldwide problems for human beings, because as soon as you unleash this machine you're building into the world, it has to know more or less what its values are.
We have to assign morality to artificial intelligence.
Now, how do you do it? You need to build in to university departments almost like aggressive cross-disciplinary working, so that the engineer doesn't go, right, look, I know that you're developing an ethical standard for an autonomous sentry that can kill anything at 2,000 meters.
Right.
And I'm going to come to the conference next year where we'll discuss what controls we put over this thing, because it's really interesting. But by the way, do you want to see the one I built in the lab? It's here. That's what engineers do.
Militaries around the world, nations like China and the US are in some senses in an AI battle. It's an arms race.
They are in an AI arms race, and they have actually at the moment different objectives. So I think the USA has a clearly military objective in its AI. It is spending the most per year on AI, but it has a big private sector that is trying to develop AI privately, and is very, very acutely aware that the US federal government must not be allowed anywhere near what they are doing. In China, China has said it needs to be the AI leader by 2032.
You know that very specifically?
Yes, because they have a policy, they're going to do it. And And the way they're going to do it is the opposite of America. The state requires the private sector to hand over its intellectual property and to interoperate.
Killer robots? Tell me about that.
Look, there are already autonomous sentry vehicles, so they patrol borders or fence lines.
But they're not AI.
Well, they have an artificial intelligence built into them, a limited one. In South Korea, in Israel, and the United States has vehicles like this. Now, the obvious problem with them is, we call it who's in the loop. You can have a human being in the loop.
Okay.
And the human being in the loop says, right, look, I can see, little rover vehicle, that you're about to go and kill somebody. I'll just like to check whether or not it's our local cleaner coming up the road who's forgotten to tell us. So let's not do it until I take a human decision. That's human in the loop.
So a human being decides, yes, kill, no, don't kill.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, just as a drone pilot does,
right.
Say in Afghanistan or Iraq, that's what the US and the UK military do. They look and then, but the drone is autonomous.
Right.
It's flying, but they take decisions. Increasingly, however, humans tend to put themselves on the loop. It's like this. I've got 10 of these vehicles. 2 of them have seen a suspicious person, and they're going to kill that person unless I stop them. So I'll just have a look and check that it's all right. But if the person who's approaching the fence line is the enemy, then go ahead and kill them. If I do nothing, something bad happens. On the loop is where I think it's going. And the argument for it is, in wars, in conflicts, a lot of bad things happen.
Yeah.
Often due to human frailty, human error, or evil. Okay? We have the Geneva Convention. You can program the Geneva Convention into a killing machine, and the people who support it say it will always obey the Geneva Convention.
Which is a good thing.
It would be a good thing. Of course, nobody wants to kill anybody, but the final form of autonomous machines, of artificial intelligence, will eventually be human out of the loop. Some of these automated processes, machines and intelligences will have that status in our lives, and so it makes it ultra imperative that at the design stage the engineers take ethics seriously, but even more importantly that we as a human society understand what's being built.
Can AI be useful to the developing world?
Look, AI, digital technologies, networks, automation, that's the future. Developing nations already are sending their scientists, their engineers, their computer programmers, their linguists to developed world universities to learn this stuff. I am totally optimistic that we can, cure diseases, solve behavioral problems, emotional problems, solve structural problems of living in a city through intelligent machines.